Homeowners associations are one of the most controversial topics amongst homebuyers. Some love them, others loathe them. There's rules and fees and boards, but there's also order and sometimes even amenities. And depending on where you're looking to move in the Triangle region of North Carolina, your odds of ending up in an HOA community can vary greatly. So today, let's dive into the pros, cons, and pervasiveness of homeowners associations in and around Raleigh, North Carolina. But before we dive in, my name is Matt Martin, and I'm a Raleigh-based realtor. I've helped tons of clients, just like you, relocate to the Triangle region of North Carolina, and if you're looking to do the same, I'd love to help you too. So let's first chat about the pros and cons of homeowners associations. And since I like to end things on a high note, let's get the cons out of the way first. One of the biggest cons for most people in homeowners associations are the rules, which are also called covenants or CC&Rs, which stand for covenants, conditions, and restrictions. Now, every HOA is different, but the covenants may dictate what landscaping you can have outside your house, what colors you can paint your exterior, or whether or not you're allowed to put up a fence, and if so, what the height, color, and material restrictions may be. There may be rules about subletting your home, and if there are any caps on how many residents can do so. And then an ever-increasingly popular rule surrounds putting up signs or flags in your yard, most notably of the political nature. So if you drive through a lot of newer HOA communities, you're just not going to notice any signs up. Another big question a lot of people ask is if there are rules around pets. And while the answer is usually yes, if you're just talking about a couple cats or dogs, you should be fine. But if you're looking to raise chickens or run a dog breeding business out of your house, well, then an HOA may not allow that. But as I said, every HOA is different, and while some will have all these rules and more, many might only have a few or none. The next big con for many people are the costs associated with an HOA. Pretty much all HOAs will charge some sort of dues, be them paid monthly, quarterly, annually, or at some other interval. These dues go towards keeping up the community, and they can cover a variety of things like that pretty welcome sign at the entrance of the community or the landscaping in the median. But they can also go deeper. If you live in a gated community, your dues will likely cover private road maintenance. They may go towards the lighting and stormwater management in the community. And if there are amenities like a pool, fitness center, or parks, well, those will need to be maintained as well. Of course, a bare bones community will typically have a much lower HOA fee than a private community with all the bells and whistles, but costs can also come down to how many homes there are in the community and whether there have been any major assessments. And the last major con of HOA communities is generally a lack of character. Now, this one will really depend on the development, but because these are typically planned communities that are built by one builder or a small handful of builders, you may not see much variation in the housing and finishes throughout. And because of the restrictions I talked about earlier, homeowners may not have the creative freedom you'd see in a non-HOA community to add their own personal touches to their homes. Okay, so now that we got the cons out of the way, let's talk about why people like living in HOA community. And let's start with one of the biggest reasons people love homeowners association communities, and that's because they tend to be better maintained and may keep their property values better. This goes back to all those rules and regulations. Yes, they're restrictive, but they also mean that everyone's lawns are usually mowed, their exterior paint isn't peeling, and there aren't cars parked on the front lawn. Because the communal spaces are often maintained by the HOA, it means you won't have overgrown grass in the medians, and you may even get beautiful flowers planted throughout the community in the springtime. All of this leads to a more cohesive, clean-feeling community, which is a huge draw for many homeowners. The next major draw for many buyers are the amenities. Now, not every HOA community comes with amenities, but if you're looking for a neighborhood with parks, a pool, trails, or a fitness center, then you're most likely going to end up in an HOA. Of course, you can still get access to all these things in an unregulated community, but you may have to seek them out beyond the confines of the neighborhood. I have some clients now who love to swim and play pickleball, and while there are plenty of clubs to join around here that offer those, they're hoping to end up in a home where they can walk out their front door and easily have access to those amenities right in their community. And speaking of community, that's another huge pro for many homebuyers. HOAs provide an almost built-in sense of community, which is great for people looking to make new friends or get involved in activity. So now that we've talked about the pros and cons, let's dive into where you can find or avoid HOA communities around the Triangle region of North Carolina. I'm going to just focus on single-family homes here since townhomes and condos are inherently tied to HOAs, and I narrowed my search to sales over the last year across the 5 major counties of the Triangle: Wake, Durham, Chatham, Orange, and Johnston. If you absolutely love the idea of living in an HOA community, then you're most likely going to want to focus your search on areas like Morrisville, New Hill, and Holly Springs, as all of these saw HOA homes make up more than 90% of their single-family home sales over the last year. Now, one of the biggest explanations here is that in 1999, North Carolina passed the North Carolina Planned Community Act, which essentially mandated that any community with more than 20 homes must have an HOA. These 3 cities all have seen explosive growth in the past 26 years since that law was passed, which means most of their new development has been subject to the HOA mandate. In Morrisville, there were 110 single-family home sales over the past year, and only 7 weren't in an HOA community. But when you look at the average year of homes built in Morrisville, it's 2004, so it completely makes sense. The biggest contributors to the high HOA numbers were the communities of Kitts Creek, Breckenridge, and Keystone Crossing. Then New Hill, which I've talked about in a bunch of my other videos because of its explosive growth of new construction communities, only had 10 homes sell in the past year outside of an HOA. But the average age of homes there is only 5 years old, and over 60% of the homes that sold in the last year were new construction. This was mainly driven by the communities of Friendship Station, Olive Ridge, and Jordan Point. And finally, in Holly Springs, there were over 600 single-family homes sold in the past year, and just 53 of those, 9%, weren't in an HOA community. So you won't be surprised to hear that the average single-family home in Holly Springs was built in 2010. These sales were mainly driven by the communities of 12 Oaks, which is known for its golf course, Sunset Ridge, and Braxton Village, though the list is quite expansive. Then rounding out the top 10 cities with the most HOA sales, we have Apex, Rollsville, Knightdale, Wake Forest, Fuquay Varina, Angier, and finally Cary. And all of these had between 80 to 90% HOA sales in the past year. So that's where you'll find the most HOA communities, but if you're absolutely looking to avoid a homeowners association, let's check out where you'll find the most success. Now, you can probably figure this out based on what I already said in the last section, but your best chances of avoiding an HOA are in the more established parts of town where most homes were built prior to 1999. So, of course, that includes the 3 main cities of the Triangle: Durham, Raleigh, and Chapel Hill. And quick side note, if you haven't watched my other videos or researched the Triangle elsewhere, the region gets its name from the shape you'd get if you drew a line between our 3 Tier 1 research universities: NC State Raleigh, Duke and Durham, and UNC Chapel Hill. So it's not surprising that these 3 cities all developed first, with more one-off home building and fewer master plan communities. Now, that's not to say there aren't still quite a few HOAs here, especially as the region as a whole has experienced explosive growth over the past 25 years. And each of these cities still had a majority of their single-family home sales take place in HOA communities. Durham had the fewest at 51%, followed by Raleigh at 57%, and Chapel Hill at 65%. And in line with these numbers, the average home built in Durham is from 1991, while Raleigh and Chapel Hill sit at 1994. So while you're more likely to find a home outside of an HOA in these cities than, say, Holly Springs, you will on average be looking at homes that are about 25 years older. Other places that made the list were Hillsborough, Carrboro, Willow Springs, and Garner. So that's a quick rundown of the pros and cons of HOAs and where to find or avoid them across the Triangle region of North Carolina. What are your thoughts on HOA community? Do you love them or hate them? Let me know in the comments below. And if you're ready to kick off your home hunt in the Triangle region of North Carolina, I'd love to be your guide. You can reach me by phone, email, or text, and you can find all my contact information in the link below or by scanning this QR code right here with your phone. And if you like this video, I have a whole catalog of others all about moving to, living in, and buying real estate in and around Raleigh, North Carolina. Here's another one here that you may like, so give it a click to keep on watching.